So I'm Stephanie Wheeler, for those of you who don't know me, and I am the PI of the Coordinating Center for the Cancer Prevention and Control Research Network. I'm based at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and I'm a professor of public health in the Department of Health Policy and Management. And I would love for my team to go ahead and introduce themselves here at the Coordinating Center, starting with Becky.
Hi, my name is Becky Lee, and I am the project director for the Coordinating Center, and happy to help anytime you need anything. Feel free to reach out. And I'll pass it on to Rebecca.
Becky's the person you've been getting all the emails from, for sure. Rebecca.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Williams. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for the network, and so I handle all the tech things, the online surveys, and the website and everything in between. So I'm the person to come to with questions about that, as well as Alexa, who does a lot of that work with me. So I'll pass it over to her.
Everyone, thanks, Rebecca. My name is Alexa Young, and I'm the research assistant at the Coordinating Center. I've been with the team for about 4 years now, and I'm more or less Becky's right-hand woman. So echoing everything that she said.
Mine too.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. And Becky, before we go to the slide, can you go back just one? I want to point out a couple of quick resources for people who might not be familiar. First of all, our website is the go-to spot for all things CPCRN. If you're looking for a form, if you're looking for somebody's contact information, if you heard a CPCRN presentation and couldn't remember the presenter's name, but you know they were part of CPCRN, this is a great place to find those resources. And if you have any trouble finding anything on the website, cpcrn.org, feel free to reach out to us, to Rebecca in particular. Thank you, Rebecca. And she can help you find it. Probably for those of you who are completely new to the network, it may be a little bit overwhelming. There's a ton of great information on the website, and so we're happy to help navigate that as needed. I also want to point out our funding disclosure here at the bottom. So the CDC is our funder for this work and has been for the network in its 20-year history, and we're very grateful to the CDC. We're part of the Prevention Research Center program, which many of you are probably quite familiar with. And it's really important that for any CPCRN related work that we always make sure to credit the CDC's funding through this network for that work. And then the last thing I'll say is we are active on social media, and you can see our Twitter handle here at CPCRN Cancer. So throughout the day today and going forward, we would love to see folks tweeting about what they're learning in the network and the connections that they've made, the collaborations that they've made, and so forth. And Alexa manages our Twitter presence. So thank you, Alexa, for doing that. Alexa also sends out accomplishments, exciting news, promotions, when people experience these sorts of things in their careers. And so we do want to sing your song and shine the light on you when good things happen. So let Alexa know about those things, and we will tweet about it or include it in our quarterly newsletters. Okay, now I'm ready, Becky, to go to the next slide. So for today's orientation, we're going to do a couple things. I'm going to give you big picture, kind of who we are as a network, a little bit about our history and what we're currently up to. And, we've got almost 30 people here today, and some of you have been in the network like Com for a very long time. Others are completely new. Some of you are scholars and are still just kind of getting your head around what this is. So we recognize that people are at different places, and we welcome your questions. So put them in the chat. We'll have time for Q&A at the end. And don't hold back. We want people to feel like they have a good handle on, network functioning after this orientation. Then Rebecca's going to talk about progress reporting on the website in more detail, followed by Alexa talking about our communication strategy. And then Becky's going to wrap it up with ways that we engage as network members. So next slide, please. So the network has been around for a very long time. As I said, since 2002. UNC has been the coordinating center since 2004 for this network, and we're currently about halfway through our 5th cycle of funding. We are the largest and the oldest thematic research network of the Prevention Research Center program. We do community-based participatory cancer research, and this is distributed across our funded collaborating centers as well as across affiliates who are active in the network. So there's 8 funded centers, which I'll show you in just a minute, who are funded as collaborating centers from the CDC. And then there's a whole host of other friends and family who are part of the network that we claim and that we collaborate with. We're focused on extending the knowledge base of research translation. So really, how do we implement evidence-based cancer control activities? And I think one of the strengths of this network is its broad geographic reach, its highly multidisciplinary range of investigators and disciplines that are represented here. It's not just folks in, public health or, even in health behavior. We have epidemiology, biostats, economics, we have nurses, we have, folks from schools of medicine, schools of pharmacy. It's a really rich and diverse group of investigators who contribute to the work of CPCRN. Next slide, please. And you know what, I want to go back actually, because Becky, I think we skimmed over the mission and the vision, and I just want to highlight very quickly, our vision is very much focused on reducing the burden of cancer and very specifically reducing and potentially even eliminating some of the cancer health disparities that we see in practice that have been persistent. And we have kind of 4 core mission goals to accelerate implementation of evidence-based cancer prevention and control strategies, to really think about scaling up these strategies with a focus on underserved populations and communities, to understand the mechanisms through which we do that. And then finally, and this one's really important to several of you on the call, to develop the workforce in this space. And so the Scholars Program is our best example of how we're doing that. And we really encourage everybody who's been a scholar or a trainee connected to the CPCRN to continue working with us. And we have some mechanisms in place to help support financially those contributions. Okay, we can keep going, Becky. I think we're to the next slide now, showing our funded centers. So this is the history of the 5 cycles of CPCRN funding. You can see the universities represented here who've been a part of the network over time. A little bit of variation in who's been engaged, and that's perfectly fine. And the most recent cycle you can see here, and then the next slide, which you can go ahead and pull up, Becky, where these current collaborating centers are based. So the dark blue shows those collaborating centers. So we have a collaborating center as well as the coordinating center here at UNC. There is a center at the University of South Carolina as well as at Emory. Going further up the East Coast, we have colleagues at NYU CUNY, and then over to the University of Iowa, the University of Arizona, and the Colorado School of Public Health. And then finally, on the far West Coast, the University of Washington is also a collaborating center. And you can see here that we're not limited, again, to those 8 collaborating centers that are supported through the CDC. We have many, many affiliate members who are based in other states and in other centers. You can see those with the green stars. There are currently 34 official affiliate members of the network. Several of them are on the call today. And then we have scholars who are, at this point, all over the world. We have 17 current scholars represented in this diagram. This doesn't include last year's cohort of scholars. And one of them is from Switzerland. So we are officially international, which is exciting. And then I also want to point out our federal agency partners. We have 18 folks at the CDC and the National Cancer Institute who are engaged in this work, which is another, I think, hallmark of this network, is how deeply embedded in the CPCRN science and the distribution of that science our colleagues are at the CDC and at NCI. So we can keep going, Becky. I want to just quickly show everybody who the PIs are of the respective collaborating centers. So I showed you the 8 collaborating centers on the prior slide, and these are the folks who lead those efforts at each of the collaborating centers. One of the really unique aspects of this network is that we're not only engaging in collaborative work across, the whole network, but each of the funded centers also have center-specific projects that they're pursuing. And so these leaders that you see here are often just as engaged in some of their work that they're doing at home as their collaborating center projects proceed as they are in the collaborative work that we do across the entire network. Next slide, please. And then these are the folks who make all the magic happen. These are our project directors, and you can see they represent all 8 centers, and some of our centers have a couple of project directors, which is awesome. And they really are the glue that hold everything together. They're often the folks, if you're part of our work groups or interest groups, that are connecting with you and sending agendas and meeting invitations and so forth. And they are all just tremendous people, and we're so thankful to have them as part of the network. Next slide. You've met all of us. I think we can zoom past this one. This is our coordinating center team, always at your beck and call. And this is a screenshot of our current strategic plan. So a couple of years ago, we engaged in a broad strategic planning process. This was in the prior round of CDC CPCRN funding. And this is just page 1, goal 1 of that strategic plan. It is available on our website. You can see the link here at the bottom. And when Becky sends out slides, there'll be a hyperlink. So if you want to peruse that in greater detail, we would highly recommend that you do that before this afternoon session, because we're going to spend a little time thinking about the things that are in this far right column here. So how do we measure our success? And what are the things that are missing in the metrics we're currently tracking? What are some of the things we could let go of? We're going to spend more time talking through that this afternoon in preparation for our next meeting, which will be revisiting the strategic plan and refining it now that we're, 2 years past this last process. So next slide, Becky. Moving on from the strategic plan, I just want to give you a couple of very quick screenshots of some of the resources that are available on our website, and I definitely suggest that you check these out. So Rebecca helped us and really led an effort to visually help us understand who is in the network and what kinds of expertise they have. And so when we started the current round of funding, we collected survey data from our members to understand their areas of expertise across those content areas, methodological areas, and the types of community partners that they were working with. And then Rebecca was able to map these in a way using Kumu software that allowed us to start to see where some synergies were, where the densities were in terms of people's expertise. And if you're looking for a collaborator, this is one of the best ways to kind of go see like who in the network is doing X, Y, or Z, and who might you reach out to. The other thing that this effort helped us to do is start to understand where are the kind of core areas of expertise? Where do we have, a lot of density in terms of people's strengths? This particular map shows you in cancer treatment, some of those kind of core areas that focus on navigation, treatment quality, shared decision-making, and psychosocial and mental health support. So you can get an idea of like, where are the, real opportunities to engage multiple different experts. And then it also allows us to see, what are some of the things where we could have more expertise, areas for growth potentially. So I encourage you to just poke around this resource, and it's something that I'm a visual person. I love. I'm so glad that Rebecca did this, and I hope we can update it moving forward. So the next one, here's just a different map. This is showing methods expertise in particular areas around research facilitation. You can get a sense of, different folks represented here. The colors I should have noted are indicative of different centers. So you can kind of see, if you're looking for somebody at Arizona, you can look for the red dots, for example. Okay, next slide. This is the last one that shows our community partners. And in this case, this map focuses on provider or facility community partners. You can see here, probably our greatest strength as a network in terms of who we partner with is our rich engagement of federally qualified health centers and other community health centers. That's represented by the number 1 down here and all the people who are connected to FQHCs. But we also have strong relationships with hospitals and large health systems, as well as other types of clinics in rural areas specifically, and then cancer centers. Next slide. So this is our organizational structure. So we have our federal agency partners at the CDC and CNCI. We have us here at the Coordinating Center. We have the 8 collaborating centers. We have our affiliate members. All of these groups contribute to cross-center activities. And they also, of course, are doing some of their own center-specific work. And then all of these groups are represented within our steering committee, and our steering committee provides guidance and strategic vision for the overall network. And all of the PIs are members of the steering committee, as well as all of our work group and interest group leads are members of the steering committee, and the federal agency partners, I should say, as well. Okay, next slide. The ways in which you can get more involved in the network are listed here. So joining cross-center activities, joining interest groups and work groups is, number one reason that people want to be involved in this network, and probably the thing that most people are really driven to do. If you're not already part of a collaborating center, or you're not already a formal affiliate of the network, we have an application. It's very short and sweet. For those of you who might not yet be formal affiliates, you can complete that application, and we review those at our monthly steering committee meetings. And then finally, many of you are scholars, part of the Scholars Program. If you know of other folks who would be great candidates for the Scholars Program, send them our way. If you have trainees, those of you who are faculty who would be good candidates for the Scholars Program, we'd love to hear from you and hear from them as well. This is not just specific to students. It includes postdocs, junior faculty, community practitioners. It is a broad array of people who want to advance their own professional development in cancer prevention and control implementation science. And to learn more, you can reach out to Courtney and Sam, who are the project directors for the Scholars Work Group. Next slide, please. This is a very brief, just visual display of our current collaborative cross-center activities. You'll hear more about these throughout the day, so I won't spend a lot of time on this. We're going to hear from several of the work groups, which are shown in dark blue, in just a couple hours when the main meeting starts out. And then you'll also hear from a couple of the interest groups, which are shown in the light blue color. And the green are holdover work groups from the prior cycle. So these are folks who are still completing work and deliverables from the last cycle of CPCRN. And you can read more about all of these groups on our website. You can see the link here. And probably the most common question we get is, what's the difference between a work group and an interest group? So a work group is a group of folks who have come together with explicit goals that have been derived from within the group in a sort of co-ownership process to really refine like what the objectives are, and then what are the specific deliverables that they're aiming for. And they're all around a common theme. And so it's not sufficient to just be working on, say, a systematic review article to really be a work group. Ideally, work groups will be working on potentially multiple deliverables around a common theme. Work groups are also required to co-develop within the group and submit a charter that outlines what their goals are and who's doing what within the group, and these are updated annually. By contrast, the interest groups, these are more kind of affinity, very, more informal affinity groups around particular topics. Sometimes these go on to become work groups. That's probably the most often trajectory. As they start to formalize and finalize their ideas about what they want to be doing, they can transition to work groups. Sometimes interest groups form around just a topic that people want to come together to discuss and learn from each other, a methodological area where people have interest. For example, our social determinants, or excuse me, our social deprivation group is really wonderful because it's people who have strong interest in how we measure area level social deprivation and how we use that information in our science. And, we hope that that will eventually become a work group, but, it remains to be seen. So you can think about interest groups as both potentially on the pathway to becoming work groups, or just as sort of looser structures where people can come together and learn from each other. And I think we can go to the last slide here. I think this is the last slide. If you want more information about each of these work groups and interest groups, we've listed all of the project directors here, as well as their email addresses. And when we send out these slides, you'll get a hyperlink for each of these folks' email addresses if you need that. And as I said, more information about all of these groups are available on the website, and you'll hear more today. Okay, I think, oh, the impact, yes. So this was something we wanted to just very quickly flash so that you can get a sense of the scope of the CPCRN and the kinds of things that we're interested in tracking that reflect our impact. And Rebecca will talk more about this, and then I'll share some of the progress from just the past year in the main meeting in just about an hour. So in the past year, you can see we've tracked almost $45 million in grants that have been awarded, which is incredibly impressive. Over the history of the entire network since 2004, when we began tracking, we've had over $740 million leveraged that have been awarded that have leveraged CPCRN activities. And then from a publication perspective, you can see the numbers here in the past year, as well as in the overall funding cycle. These are impressive, and overall we have over 2,000 network-related publications since our time tracking this information in 2004. We do a lot of presentations, and we also do a lot of trainings to build capacity for evidence-based cancer prevention and control activities in communities. We've only been tracking the trainings in the past few years, so that's why that number may look a little smaller than some of you might have expected. Okay, next slide. And I'm going to turn it over now to Rebecca.
Hello. Okay, I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to do the website first and then jump into progress reporting. Becky, was there a slide on progress reporting that you wanted me to base it on, or would you prefer I just show the system quickly?
We do have a slide for progress reporting.
Okay, well, I'll do the website first, and then I can go to that slide. So let me share my screen. Let's see here. So this is the CPCRN homepage. I'm just going to quickly go over some of the features that we have on here. We have a news section, and you can jump to read more news. We usually have a few stories here, and some basics with linking to our member centers and our Meet Our Experts page. There's a more detailed nav at the bottom, but I'd like to call your attention to these sections up here. We have an about section, which is the network, about our network centers with details about them. We have an area where you can look at our areas of expertise, and that's those Kumu maps that Stephanie just showed you, and they're interactive and very detailed, but I'm not going to show them right now because that takes a significant amount of time. But we also have a Meet Our Experts section, which allows you to go through and see profiles on many of the experts in our network. And you can open any of them to see a bio and more contact information about that person. And you can filter those based on areas of expertise and the type of, whether they're with a member center or an affiliate and so on. And as you kind of narrow down the filters that you're applying to all of this, these numbers also adjust. And then you apply the filters. You can reset the filters, but allows you to, like, if I want to see someone who's got expertise in colorectal cancer screening and FQHCs, I can apply, and that gets us down to 32 people. You can hide the filters, and now I'll just see the list of the people that are identified with those areas of expertise. So it's a really useful way. The Kumu presentations give you a really kind of good bird's eye view of how all of the people in the network are interconnected. And this one, I think, is a great a feature and function where you can find specific people with specific areas of expertise at specific centers and so on. And so it's a really useful resource. We have something similar for our CPCRN scholars that works just about exactly the same way. And so this includes our current CPCRN Scholars Program members. I believe it also includes our past members from the previous cohort, as well as the mentors and other more senior people that are involved. And you can also click to learn more about the program. And then we have a page on the Coordinating Center. Our news section, as I said, we have lots of news items. And you can open any of them. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to click on one about me, but yes, there's a news story there, and tell us more about that. And also, if you ever want to, with any of these, accordion expanding things. If you want to be able to link someone directly to that news item or that accordion item, you can always click the copy link button and it will copy a link that is specific to that item rather than like go to the news page and scroll through and find the fifth one or something like that. We also have a page where you can see all of our current and past CPCRN newsletters that we distribute via email to everyone in CPCRN and a bunch of folks that are interested in CPCRN. And then we have a projects page that goes into detail about all of our different work groups. We call them projects for kind of the public that may be seeing these, whereas within the network, we really call them work groups. But you can see that there are, there's information about our work groups, our interest groups, our inactive projects, so former work groups. And again, there's detailed information that you can get by clicking on the expander, and it will also show you the members of that work group as drawn from our member directory, which we'll get to in a moment. We have a list of all of our publications that have been submitted to our progress reporting system over the years that is searchable, and you can expand for abstracts. You can get links to those articles on PubMed, and that's a really useful tool as well. We have a presentations page that has all kinds of presentations, our member CPCRN work at conferences, as well as presentations that have been given at CPCRN meetings. A resources page has some basic information like our overview presentation. If you need to put that into a presentation that you're doing about CPCRN work, you need a few slides to give an intro to the network. You can find that here. We also have an assortment of fact sheets and data briefs about the network and the network's work. We have a list of web resources. We have some external links and technical support for CPCRN publications. Really only has one or maybe two that publications in the past that we had to link to extra content that we have to kind of live on the website forever. And then we also have our training page, which is where the Putting Public Health Evidence into Action training that was created by several centers in the network is featured, and you can basically download all of the content for the training with one click or go into individual sections and modules. You can also see videos associated with these from the trainings. So you can use this as a resource to get what you need to give this training to other people, but also to take the training yourselves. And there's videos and everything that go along with it. It's a fantastic resource. And then I want to call your attention up here to the top. We have a search bar that will allow you to search the whole website with the exception of the publications page. Certain parts of the website have to be searched in different ways, but when you use it, it'll kind of direct you towards that. We have a member resources page, which takes you to guidance documents and templates like our style guide, policies and procedures, strategic plans. If you ever need a template for a presentation or a report or data brief or progress reporting and all that kind of things, those are found here. We also have presentations and publications that are of interest in network members, meeting minutes, technology tools, all that kind of thing that we think are going to be useful for our members as opposed to for the public. So how we do Zoom, how we do Google Drive, things like that. And then we have, I'm going to jump quickly over to our calendar, which shows all of the meetings that get scheduled in the network for work groups, and I don't know why this isn't loading at the moment, but there we go, it's just taking its time. I apologize, I have a very slow internet connection, but you can find all of the network's work group meetings on this calendar, and each of those calendars is an individual Google Calendar for that work group. So you should be able to add that calendar to display on your own if you want. So you can calendar essentially, and just the work groups that you're involved in so that you can have those automatically show up for yourself, but they're always here. And then let me take you to our directory. Our directory is really neat because it feeds a lot of different things around the website. So what you see here is just names and contact information, which you can filter by names, by all the filtering things that I showed you before, areas of expertise and you know, places that folks work and things like that. But also in the back end of the directory is where we indicate in the back end where people, what groups they're affiliated with. It's where their bios live. It's where their membership in different work groups is tracked. And when you get added to a work group in a membership, or sorry, added to a work group, that also gives you access to other resources like Google Drive, Google Calendar, et cetera, that are associated with that work group. And so it's a really easy way to get people kind of added to all of the resources associated with something in one click on our end. And project directors can make updates to the directory that then just quickly go by us for approval, just in case, because we've had errors in the past, just so that we can make sure that someone's not, for example, adding someone to the directory that is already in there. And one of the other things that this feeds is everyone in the directory is on our kind of CPCRN wide listserv. But what we use far more often than that is the email members feature on our website, where folks can email the members of any work group that they want. And that also includes, we have lists for the PIs, for the project directors, for our federal agency partners, and things like that. And you can steering committee, and you can pick a group. And then you get to copy and paste those. When you click on one of these, depending on your email program you're using, it will copy all of the addresses to everyone in that work group that you can paste into an email and in your own email program. And we encourage folks to do that, because rather than doing a reply all to a previous email that they got in the work group, because that way they will be sure that they get the most up-to-date list of members of the work group, because those change all the time. People leave, people enter, and using the email members feature ensures that you're getting all of the current members of that work group. There is a login button up here that we give logins to project directors so they can do some of the things with the directory and things that happen in the background. And I think that's all I need to say about the website for the moment. So let me stop that share. And then Becky, if we can go back to that slide about progress reporting. I could show you all the progress reporting system, but that would take even longer than this. And I think it's best to give a kind of bird's eye view of the sorts of things that we track in our progress reporting system. In our progress reporting system, we have folks track a lot of different types of information that we compile into a summary report every year. And that goes to the funders and to the network so people can see what their colleagues have been up to. And so we can kind of capture in the broad numbers what sorts of things are going on in the network. Becky, is that slide up yet? Becky, you're muted.
Yes,
Yep, we can see it.
others see it?
Yep. We
Okay.
can. Yep.
I'm having window issues. Let me just quickly bring all to the front. There we go. Okay, so we do individual center progress reporting, work group reporting, and those work group reports are submitted as a Word document. There is a template in that member resources section on the website for that. And then the coordinating center also does reporting that gets included in that big summary report that we do each year. Yearly reporting is due on December 15th for the previous funding cycle that ends on September 29th. So you have about 2.5 months after the end of the reporting cycle to complete those reports, but all of the content in the reporting system can be added throughout the year. So some people prefer to kind of keep the information they're going to need to add into the progress report in a spreadsheet or something like that, and add it all towards the end of the deadline. And other people prefer to just keep adding information to the system throughout the year so that it's all stored there. And either one of those is fine, whatever works. But ask people to report on is anything that is, it's all content that is, or activities that are either funded directly by your CPCRN funds, or involve in some way the CPCRN infrastructure. So it may be supported by work group work that is supported by some funds from the coordinating center, or it could simply be that these are folks that you have collaborated with through your interactions in CPCRN. These are things that wouldn't have happened if CPCRN didn't exist. And so we want to know about every publication, every presentation, every grant application, and we have detailed information about all of these things. Research activities that are research activities tend to be all the things that you do that don't necessarily fall into any of these other categories. It's the catch-all. If your center gives out mini grants out of your CPCRN funds to other people or organizations. And then we have a number of, we also have reports, plans, and policies that are done in collaboration with state and national programs. And we have some sections that are impact measures that go with this scientific impact framework that I think is going to be going over later, that CDC put out, and they wanted to add this a few years ago. We added measures of impact. Can you go back to that slide? Thank you. So we collect information about requests from your researchers for scientific expertise, activities that have been taken to catalyze action or affect change. Dissemination is significant dissemination communications. So if you posted something to Twitter about one of your research projects that got huge engagement, we want to know about it. If there are quotable feedback and anecdotes that come from your research participants or partners, we want to know about that. And just more recently, we've added these two lighter blue items at the bottom, which is we're now tracking all COVID-related activities and all work that has to do with disparities reduction and health disparities and kind of serving underserved populations and that kind of thing. So that is the progress reporting overview. Should I turn it over to you now, Becky?
This one's me. Thanks, Rebecca. So I'm going to talk just briefly about the communications plan. So in the last several years, and then I guess largely picking up steam when we started CPCRN 5, this 5th cycle a couple of years ago, we have started to explore kind of different avenues through which we could share about the network, with a dual aim, basically, of disseminating information about network activities and also sharing about the many accomplishments of our investigators, affiliate members, community and federal agency partners, and now CPCRN scholars, but also to hit on a broader audience with the aim of expanding our reach and engagement. And hoping that the way that we operate and the way that we work and the activities that are taking place kind of resonate with others who might be interested in contributing to the network and collaborating with our members, and also with the hope of strengthening our connections with other experts and even their institutions, like Stephanie mentioned, both domestically and now internationally as well. So over time, we've kind of picked up on different platforms through which we could effectively get the word out and garner interest from those who are newly familiar with CPCRN. So at this time, we're currently doing so via a Twitter profile, Facebook page, an e-newsletter, the news site that Rebecca just showed everyone, and then most recently a YouTube page. So this last one being the newest. We have some stuff in the pipeline that we're hoping to get up there soon, but we do already have some great content. The Putting Public Health Evidence in Action training was just revamped, and it's incredible and has already been delivered to the scholars last year. And so we have recordings of all of those modules up on that page. And so those are available to you. And we encourage you to check them out, as well as subscribe, follow, like, whatever other means of engaging I might be forgetting, just to make sure you're kept in the loop as much as possible. And chances are we'll probably feature you at one point or another, so you don't want to miss that either. So I will post links in the chat in just a minute if any of you are interested in checking out those resources. So that's about it from me. Becky, if I missed anything, do let me know, but yeah, I'll post those just now.
Right. No, thank you, Alexa. Just to wrap it up, now that you've learned about some of the opportunities with it in CPCRN, we want to make sure that you know how to become involved. So if any of these activities sound interesting to you, the first step would be to reach out to the work group or interest group co-chairs or project directors. They can add you to the group in the CPCRN directory, and then you'll receive all future communications about the group's activities. I would encourage you to attend the group's meetings and see if it's a good fit, and then just dive in. There are numerous ways to engage, and we've listed some of them here, from data collection to grant proposals and many other opportunities. I wanted to also point you to the guidelines for collaboration on the CPCRN website under member resources. The steering committee has spent the last couple of months updating these guidelines, and they go into great detail about how the network works together. So with that, I'll hand it back over to Stephanie for a few questions, and please reach out if you need anything from us.
Thank you, guys. That was excellent. And you can see our contact information here. So we're going to open it up for questions. And while we're waiting for questions to come in, I did want to note that the Coordinating Center has a limited set of resources that we make available to people engaged in the network for a variety of things. So we can support costs of research activities that are not already supported by collaborating centers. We can support, in some cases, conference travel. We do try to prioritize junior investigators with those funds, but we have a whole set of guidances on our website about, how those funds get distributed from the Coordinating Center. And so if you ever have something that's network related for which there's not funds available locally, please do reach out to us, because that's the whole purpose of that pot of funds, is to support network activities financially. Okay, so let me see in the chat if we have any questions. Or does anybody want to unmute and ask a question? Any of our established investigators, Cindy, want to add anything to this orientation?
No, I just want to say thank you. And I just wanted to tell people that I got started in CPCRN network as a younger investigator. And it's just been really enriching to be able to reach out to cancer researchers who work in a variety of different areas and kind of get to know them. And I've also enjoyed working on different work groups over the years. So just as Rebecca and Becky and Stephanie have said, find ways to kind of get engaged or reach out to people. I think, as in everything else, it's an opportunity, and CPCRN presents lots of opportunities for engagement, and we hope you just take advantage of it.
I would echo those sentiments, as I started with CPCRN when I was still a grad student, and back in 04, 05 when UNC took over as the coordinating center. And I too have made so many great connections through this network and learned so much and had so much opportunity to be involved in a wide variety types of cancer research that, had I stayed in my lane that I do in my outside of CPCRN work, I never would have had access to. So I absolutely agree with Com on all of that.
And I just have a practical tip. I would calendar time to walk through this website. Give yourself an hour and, really focus and walk through this, because I think you will find a lot of gems, a lot of individuals that you want to reach out to. And there's a lot of senior people who want to help build your careers. So I'd encourage that.
Thank you all. That was super, super helpful and great tips. And now that I can see the full screen, I see we have some other established members of the network here, Betsy, and a long-standing friend of the network and affiliate, Randy Schwartz. Thank you all for being here. I don't know if there's anybody else I've missed, but if anybody else wants to add anything, please feel free. Okay, well, without further ado, we have a break before the main session, and we'll see you back at 12 o'clock for the main meeting. Thank you all.